Okay, so this is just a continuation of factoring, just to reinforce what we already did last week. So we've got 3x squared minus 2x minus 8. So I'm going to take my first two terms are going to give me the first term here. So how can I multiply and get 3x squared? 3x times x, right? And there isn't really any other way to do it. So I'm done with that one. Now, if I look at 8, that could be 8 times 1, or it could be 4 times 2, right? So before I start plugging anything in, I notice that if I put in an 8, if I do 3 times 8, that's 24. That's going to be way too big. And even 8x is too big. And so I'm pretty sure it's not going to be 8 and 1. So I'm going to try the 4 and the 2. All right, so if I put the 4 over here, I'm going to end up doing 3x times 4, right? And that's 12. That's still like a lot bigger than what I want it to come out to. So I don't think the 4 goes there. I'm going to put the 4 here and the 2 here. And check the inside and the outside. So inside I get 4x. Outside I get 6x. Well, I noticed that it's got to equal a negative 2x. So what would I have to do with that 4x and 6x for it to equal negative 2x? The 6 would have to be negative, which makes sense. So that means the 2 is negative and the 4 is positive, because I had to have it multiply to negative 8 anyway, so I knew they had to have different signs, right? Okay, so that one would equal 3x plus 4 times x minus 2. All right, so on your whiteboards, I want you guys to do this one for me. All right, so how can you get 2x squared, 2x squared? It's got to be 2x times x, right? How can we get 10? 1 times 10 or 2 times 5. So if I start with 2 times 5, if I put the 2 here and the 5 here, I'm going to get 2x and 10x, and that's not going to help me get to a just positive 1x at all, is it? So I know it can't be that way. All right, so if I flip it around and I put the 5 here and the 2 here, now I get 5x and 4x. So how could I make it come up to a positive x? If the 4 was negative, yeah. So 5x minus 4x, that's going to equal positive x. That means the 2 is negative and the 5 is positive. And again, they're multiplying to a negative, so that makes sense. We knew that they had to have different signs. All right, here's another one for your whiteboards. This one's nice and easy. Okay, let's take a look at this. So how am I going to get the x squared? Just x times x, right? All right, so for it to be a negative 20, that means I'm going to have a negative times a positive, right? Everybody agree? Okay, so how can I multiply to get 20 and have a difference of 1? 4 times 5. So 4 times x gives me 4x. 5 times x gives me 5x. So if I want it to be a positive 5x, what has to be negative? The 4 has to be negative. And the 5 has to be positive. Okay? You understand now, Tony? All right, so if the leading coefficient is negative, what you want to do is factor out the negative 1. If you factor out negative 1, it's going to make it easier to factor the trinomial. So if I have negative 3x squared minus 11x plus 4, I can essentially divide all of these by negative 1. And put what's left inside the parentheses. So negative 3x squared becomes positive 3x squared. Negative 11x becomes positive 11x. and positive 4 becomes negative 4. So the negative 1 sticks around. We don't just throw it away. It's still part of your answer. But now I just have to look at what's in the parentheses and factor that. So how could I get 3x squared? 3x times x, yeah. How could I get 4? I could get 2 and 2, or 4 and 1. So let's check 2 and 2. So here I have 2x and 6x. Is there any way I'm going to get 11 out of that? No. So 2 and 2 doesn't work very well. Well, let's try 4 and 1. Now, I want it to be close to 11. So where do you guys think I should put the 4? In the second one, so that I'm doing 4 times 3, right? And getting 12x. And then if we just put the 1 here, I get 1x. So if I wanted to add up to 11x, what do I have to do? The x would have to be negative, right? And so that means the 1 is negative and the 4 is positive. Okay, and the negative 1, though, is still part of the answer, so don't just drop it out. All right, I want you guys to try and give this one a try. Okay, so you should have gotten negative 1 times 3x minus 2 times x plus 1. Thank you.